Once you found out about the consequences of Kurapika using Emperor time for even a mere second, you were mortified. You could only imagine the lifespan that boy has already lost, with him stubbornly using it. Was it a year? 5 years? A decade already? Even you couldn't deny it would be a matter of time before everything about Kurapika would be taken from you. You had met him on the boat, along with Lɪɪrd and Gon, though you had to admit he hadn't caught your attention until you met his eyes. He was reading then, but by chance he looked up, and you saw his eyes. You had never seen someone's eyes look so deeply unhappy. You wanted to know him, to know the reason for his pain swimming in those gray eyes of his. When he finally told you and Lɪɪrd what had happened to his family and their scarlet eyes, it furthered your cause to try to relieve that anger deep in his heart, if only for a moment. Now here you sat in the darkness of the night, under a small tree near the Nᴜᴍභᴇ mansion. You became a bodyguard, just like Kurapika, just to be able to stay with him. You managed to convince Kurapika to let you follow him under the pretense that you wanted to become a blacklist hunter as well. You'd never admit the real reason you were here. He'd only turn you away, some sort of noble reason that he should continue this dark path by himself. He wouldn't be able to comprehend that you were doing this from your own free will. But it didn't stop you from worming your way into his raging heart. He accepted the reason you were there, but his intuition told him otherwise. Some days there was hope. Hope that he'd forget about his revenge when he gave you and Melody that small smile of his. But deep in the night, you'd hear tumbling and rustling in his room, already knowing what was happening. You'd barge into his room only to stare into those deep scarlet red eyes. He had another nightmare of his family. It was now a nightly occurrence, always going in to comfort Kurapika the best you could. Kurapika, you hesitantly walked up to the Kurta, as if stalking up to a wounded animal. Your hand touched his arm as he flinched, only getting more enraged. He quickly pulled his arm from your hand and started pacing, while you could only stand there and watch him pour out all his rage. "I'll kill them all. I'll ruin their lives just as they ruined mine." Kurapika all but seethed. You try once more, going in front of him to stop him from pacing again, slowly reaching out your arms to embrace him. The blonde let you, but made no effort to return it back. You stroked his sweaty hair until you felt his breathing calm slowly. You stood with him until you pulled him onto the bed, still embracing him. It was a good sign he wasn't pushing you away at all. It's no use getting angry at what they did right now. All you're doing is letting them win. You continued to stroke his hair while both of you were entangled together. "You're right," Kurapika said after a quiet moment before he paused. "Thank you for being with me." Sincerity and gratefulness deep in his voice. All you could do was pull him to you tighter until finally he embraced you back with just as much strength. For the rest of the night, nightmares did not plague his mind. You stayed up, thinking sure it was selfish to hope that he'd give it all up for you, that you valued his life above all else. What you perceived as precious, he carelessly gave up for his revenge. It was suicidal. Even if it was selfish of you to want him to live his life, you didn't care. You were pulled out of your little world when you felt it. That warm aura of his coming together with your own. You mindlessly picking at the grass beneath you while you felt Kurapika sit beside you under the coolness of the night. You paid no attention to him, and continued doing what you were doing, a silence coming between you two. You two did this often. You would come here by yourself when you trapped inside your head so often, and he would follow. Your fear of losing Kurapika would become too overwhelming for you to handle. The observer that he was noticed you started going missing at night. He couldn't feel your aura anymore, and he looked for himself where you wandered off to. It wasn't likely you exactly kept it a secret anyway. You found yourself surprised when he stayed with you in your nightly adventures. You could feel his intense stare burning holes at the side of your head, but you still said nothing. You heard the blonde sigh. What are you thinking about, Wyan? About everything. About you. You disliked when he scrutinized you and laid you out in the open. He stayed silent for a moment, turned and saw him rub his face in frustration. You knew he carefully thought about what his next response to you would be. We already talked about it, Wyan. Nothing will turn me away from my goal. That doesn't mean I have to accept it, Kurapika. That it doesn't hurt me, you said softly, still refusing to meet his gaze. You felt the softness of his hand rest on top of your own, which was grabbing at the ground. You didn't reciprocate. The stubbornness of your heart wouldn't let you. Please don't be this way, Wyan. What little time I have left, I want to spend it with you. Could you at least grant me that? Kurapika realized long ago that if it wasn't the phantom group that ended up killing him, it would be the amount of times he used Emperor time to fight them. You felt your heart swell with the pain. What little time I have left. It echoed in your brain. You slowly met his gaze. You couldn't stop the familiar feeling of wetness stinging at your eyes, though you refused to let them fall out. My life is nothing if you are not in it, Kurapika. You felt the coldness of his chains on his hand cup both your cheeks. He rested his forehead against yours and said nothing. His silence was the only answer he could give. He couldn't promise something he could not keep. It wouldn't be fair to fill your mind with sweet nothings. All he knew was being with you calmed the fire in his heart, but only for a short while. After a long period of just holding you under the watchful moon, Kurapika spoke up. It's getting late. We have to get up early for our shifts. Come on. He tried to pull you up with him, but you stopped him. I'm gonna stay out here a little longer. Kurapika hesitated for a while, before slowly nodding. You felt him give you a gentle kiss on your forehead, and a final look before finally heading back to the mansion. The sweet lie you told yourself was that he'd changed his mind, that he'd see reason eventually. But all you saw in his eyes was rage that was already so far gone. You chuckled, bitterly. Of course he'd choose revenge over you. You weren't enough to stop him. Hello everyone, thank you for listening to this. The song that's in the background is Somewhere Only We Know, which is a cover. It's a cover, and I really like. I think I like this one more than the original. It's by Rihanna. You can find it in the description. I highly recommend going to listen to it. Like, I have it on repeat. It's so good. Like, her voice is so like, it's so soft, so smooth, so buttery, so milky. It's like hearing Artemis sing. It's like hearing Selene sing, the goddess, of course. Anyways, as I was saying, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have an amazing morning, have an amazing evening, have an amazing afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. And I will see you guys in a few hours. Goodbye, everyone.